Morning. Out in Derbyshire Dales today, glorious day, 14th of May 2022. Come to see Whitelaw's contractors who are making silage for a customer today. They are using Strautmann forage wagons. Full lineup of John Deere tractors for Whitelaw's, but the customer is mowing the grass as well ahead. He's got new Holland tractors, so we'll just have a little look. You could potentially hear the roar of a 7530 just coming up the field. Turn around, have a look at it. Probably see it there. Whoa, listen to that. 7530, map to 230 horsepower, straight turbo, variable geometry turbo's gone, EGR bypass, standard 30 series modifications. Yeah, the 215R's got about a 22 horsepower boost, so that's what, 240, something like that, all told. The new 6R215 say they're 237 horsepower with a 22 horsepower boost, so that takes it to 260 nearly, about 260 horsepower out of the new 6R215s. So obviously they'd have had a bit of a kick. There he's going just off up the road now. Nice. There's another 7530 on the rake, so there's a crone. I can't remember how wide the crone rake is. It's a 2-rotor rake, so taking in probably about 80 metres, 89 metres I think. Oh, here comes Andrew now with the 250R. Bit of traffic today, it's busy up here and there's no escape on the roads. It's kind of B road territory up here, so once you get a few cars behind you, that's it, you're stuck. Here we go, straight into action. So anyway, we'll have a look at what they're doing, have a look at some of the machines and explain what's going on. Hopefully it makes sense and people enjoy it. We'll see. I'm going to actually go and have a look at the mowing, get a little bit of footage of that because they're probably going to be finished soon. There's about 260 acres of first cut silage to make today. Certainly this feels really nice stuff. Quite leafy, not too stalky. Oh, nice and dry. It feels sticky as well, good sugar in it. You can see that it's mown. It wasn't a massive crop, nice green stubble, so that'll recover really nicely if we get some rain soon, which we haven't had a lot of in the last 2 months really. A little bit last week, but nothing major really. Wagons have gotten a lot more popular in recent years. They're much more reliable than they used to be. They're stronger, the output is greater, capital outlay is favourable, and you don't need as many people either. Labour is less than a big silage team that would be running a typical 600-700 horsepower forage harvester. So yeah, that's another factor, and a lot of dairy farmers prefer the chop quality that comes through a wagon with a mix of short and long pieces of grass. They find it's better for their system if they're into that. Yeah, so really nice early cut grass up here. We're quite high up as well, which is another factor that you have to think about in the UK. I mean, we're up in the Peak District of Derbyshire, so probably 13,000 foot above sea level. So the grass doesn't grow quite as quickly up here as it does down in the flats in Cheshire or somewhere like that. Okay, so we're in the field with the farmer's own machine mowing. So we've got here a New Holland T7 210 and McHale Pro Glide mowers. So these mowers are 3 meters wide each, so that's 6 meters per pass with the outfit. And these are disc mowers, which are most common these days. So underneath that hood you've got a set of 7 discs, I think, on the McHale, and each disc has 2 blades, and these rotate towards each other, so each disc turns towards the next disc, and then they cut the grass, and the grass is then collected at the back of the machine by a rotor, which is the conditioner part, which has steel tines. The steel tine takes the grass, bruises it slightly, not too much, and that allows for extra wilt. It obviously leaves the grass a little bit more fluffy than if it was just cut with a straight mower, and this also helps with the wilt and the presentation for the tedder as well. So that you can see the tedder in the background coming along behind. That machine is primary function is just to spread the grass out, so you can see the rows from the mower, and then on the other side of the field where the tedder's been working already, you can see that he's spread the grass out and left that nicely for the sun to shine onto, and a little bit of wind to wilt that grass. Looking at the Pro Glide mowers here, you can see the rear one just moving around slightly, and that's the whole design of that mower. It's pulled from that central point where the arm reaches out, and it's allowed to move around that point and follow the contours of the ground and any resistance that it might meet with obstacles. The Krone tedder here is designed to spread the grass out. You can see that's what it does. It takes 3 rows at a time. It looks like he's overlapping, but he isn't, just because of the way the machine spreads the crop onto the next row. So he's not overlapping, he's just taking 3 rows at a time. And the reason for this is to dry the grass, to get that moisture content down to about 30% dry matter. So the McHale Pro Glides are 3 meter cut, steel tine conditioner, disc bed, with a unique, I don't know whether it's unique, it's McHale's own floating system, which, like most mowers, requires some hydraulic pressure to activate. The accumulators and hydraulic cylinders have to be set for the weight. So you put the mower on, then you have to set the pressure for the height that the mower is set to on the tractor's link arms, and also the ground conditions. So if the ground is a little bit soft, the tractor tyres will sink in a little bit, so that will affect the amount of weight that's transferred onto the mower bed. So it really is something that needs doing pretty much every day. Even field to field it could be an issue. So the older New Holland tractor here, the T6070, he's just cruising past. Can't make out what model the Krone is. Don't know which tedder that is. Can't see. 8 rotors. Probably in the region of 8 meters, something like that, I would imagine. So he's tedding the grass out to get it to dry. This is obviously freshly mown, so this field's quite damp, but it's really nice. It's got a stickiness to it that, you know, and the smell of it is really good. So should make some nice silage. remember how wide the Krone rake is. It's a 2-rotor rake, so taking in probably about 80 metres, 89 metres I think. Yeah, complete garbage that. It doesn't go to 8 metres, it goes to 7.6. The model number 760 might give that away. But hey, he's working about, he's got the rotor set out to about 7.2, 7.4 metres. So not quite full width, because obviously the width that you rake in affects the width that the rotors deposit the grass in the middle. So you don't want, as I said, massive swath for forage wagons, because you've got to go over it with your tractor and it's got to go up the pickup. So you want something nice and uniform to make the job easier, really. Okay, looking at the Krone 760 rake here. Rakes have been around for a long time. Some people are going on to merger machines now, which lift the grass off the floor completely and put it into a row. But for simple, easy to use, cheap to run machine for putting grass into rows, you can't beat this machine. And they come from many manufacturers: Kuhn, Class, Krone, obviously. Fendt and Massey Ferguson have adopted the Lely brand. But anyway, you can see there's two positions for the tines. It's just dropping the grass in the middle next to the curtain. Inside the central hub of this machine is a cam track, and the arms are connected to it. So each time it comes into the middle, the cam twists the arm out of work, lets the grass be deposited, and then puts the rake back into work position so it can carry on raking the crop into the middle. Really simple, but very effective. For some reason I've just parked next to the farmer's muck heap. It looks like the farmer's got a slurry separator, because that's separated muck, so that's been through effectively a mangle with teeth, which squeezes all the moisture out of the farmyard manure and slurry and gives you two products, so like a watery product and a solid product, which is that. So that's there waiting. Whether that will go on the grassland, I don't think. The farmer might not chance it now at this time of year. I wouldn't have thought to put solid manure on grassland, because if it doesn't get sufficient rain, it will just linger around, and then the bacteria will sit in the grassland, and then when they take the next cut, obviously there'll be a problem, because that grass will go off in the clamp. Anyway, brings me on to my next rant. So farmers put farmyard manure on their farmland, which is nutrient dense, but it also causes movement in the soil, so worms, feed soil microbiology, which is really important for healthy roots in crops, healthy roots in grass, which brings me to my point that I was going to start making, which was dog poo. There's lots of footpaths around here, there's a big cycleway, and you do see it, I see it at home where I live. People leave dog poo, and it is my absolute pet hate. Second most to people who put it in a bag and then throw it somewhere and say they're going to come and pick it up later when they don't. But anyway, dog poo in grass, dog poo carries a parasitic bacteria which is not harmful to the dog, but it is harmful to sheep and cattle. So when this food, if a cow or a sheep was grazing in this field and there was dog poo, they wouldn't go near it because they can smell it and they know that oh, I'm not going to eat that because it's going to make me ill. But when it's put into a crop that's ensiled, they don't have any choice because they don't detect it the same as naturally grazing. So when this feed gets used in the winter to feed the cows, if there is any dog poo, it carries this parasitic bacteria, is it bacteria? Parasite anyway, which called, I don't know if it's called Neosporia or whether that's the condition that it triggers, but basically what happens is sheep and cattle abort their young early, so obviously that's not an ideal situation for a sheep or a cow to have a miscarriage or abort their calf or lamb before it's ready to be born. And that's one of the things that the dog poo in the grass causes. So if you are a non-farming type fuggle, then that's why farmers get bent out of shape about it, because it's really serious. Anyway, back to the machines. Okay, so we're looking into the top of the wagon pulled by the 7x30 here, and you can see the grass twitching away. The wagons are loaded from the bottom, and what happens is you get a greater compression. So silage trailers loaded by a forage harvester, for example, loaded from the top, it's quite soft. By the time that trailer gets to the gate, the load in it is dropped by a foot. With forage wagons, it's a much denser load, and this is why they state two figures. So they state a actual volume, which for this wagon is 34 square meters. That's DIN volume, so actual measured volume. But then they say it's actually 64 meters cubic meters of load due to the compression, and that compression is achieved by sheer brute force, really. The load goes up through the pickup, and then it's forced, a big rotor that's about 1/2 meter in diameter, forces that crop past some knives. The knives give the theoretical chop of about 35 millimeters on this wagon, I think, and then it's pushed up into the body of the machine and then loaded from the front to the back. So the bed chains pull the load backwards, and that's how they're loaded. Okay, this is the knife bank in the back of the rotor. The knife bank drops out both for maintenance, but actually this machine has been blocked on the corner, so the way you unplug it basically is you drop the knives out, put it into 540 PTO, clear the block, and then reinsert the knives once everything's clear. This is the pickup on the wagon that Andrew's using behind the 6250R. You can just see occasionally his wheel mark appears on the swath, which has been left by the rake obviously, and it's almost filling the pickup of the machine. On these Gigavites machines they have a CFS roller which sits just behind the pickup tines. Unfortunately I haven't got any clear footage of it, but it's got a spiral on it, and the job of that roller is to spread the grass out, so it comes off the pickup tines, hits the CFS roller, gets spread out to fill the width of the header slightly more, before it hits the rotor. That way you're not forcing all the grass through the centre of the rotor. You're utilising more of the rotor, and it's supposed to make the machine easier to drive because you're spreading the grass in a thinner layer across a wider width of the header. Okay, we're on board with Andrew here in the 6250R. So this is a slightly different proposition to the other tractor. Obviously bigger, more comfortable, more spacious cab, but Andrew's using his wagon through the tractor's isobus directly into the John Deere screen, so you can just see the little wagon icon on the screen there. And every now and again he'll just move the bed back. These guys load manually, so they're getting a full load in the wagon, so you do see a little bit trickle over the top every now and again. But yeah, this is loading. This is this same process all day. Back to the clamp, empty, back to the field, load. So we're on board with the 7530 here, chap called Sam driving. Slightly different proposition to Andrew's tractor. 30 series cab, still not a bad place to spend the day. You'll see the key difference here is that he's using the control box, which is an isobus control box, but it's not a fancy touchscreen that Andrew gets to use. So Sam's not on a vario tractor here, so he's changing gear and then moving the bed as he loads the wagon. He just keeps inching the bed back every now and again. As soon as the tractor starts to come under load, he'll just push the bed back a little bit, and obviously he's got a few more things to do there, changing gear as he just slows down for the headland, and then lift the header up. Everything's run through the control box on these machines, whereas Andrew's got just a few nice button presses with his Command Pro. Sam's got a few more jobs to do in this tractor, but far from being a hardship really. You can see the tank on the front there. These guys are applying biological additive. So back in the day it used to be an additive based on acid, which preserved the grass, which helped stabilise the fermentation process, but these days it's friendly bacteria just to encourage the fermentation, reduce the waste, get the fermentation process going before any rot sets in on the crop. He just drops the header down. He's just about to block it. There's a couple of lumps going in there. I know this because I watched it happen. There you go, there's the blockage. So he's got to stop the tractor, knock it out of PTO, drop the knife bank out, and re-engage PTO, clear the blockage, put the knife bank back in, wait till everything's back in position, PTO back in, back into 1000, PTO, knife bank in, and he sets off again. It's a lot easier to unblock than a forage harvester, that's for sure. Okay, this is the 6250R, just finishing off a load. I think it's a Lancaster bomber that went over. I'd stand to be corrected, but I don't even know why it was there. You can just catch it in the corner of the footage where Andrew is, and then I zoomed into it like a magpie with a shiny thing. It's not every day you see that. Pretty cool. Okay, just on board with Andrew here. He's just been talking to Sam on the other tractor. giving them a few heads up about the banks here. There's a bit of a steeper terrain to where they've been working before, particularly on the other side of the bank there. There's quite a drop off down towards Buxton direction. You can see on his screen this little wagon icon has turned black, which means it's full. There's a little sensor on the back door of the wagon, so when the grass starts to hit that, it tells the driver that it's full, which is taken as an advisory with wagon drivers. They're just, yeah, it's full when they decide it's full. .27530 is just timing it nicely, going into work here. Rake on the other side. His forage wagon's nearly full, so next step we'll have a look at the machines in the silage pit and see what happens there and how that system works. Yeah, just a final sort of look at the wagon before we change subject. And they have quite big wheels on these. It's not like a standard trailer. They're really wide. They're 710 wide tyres, and they've got passive steering axles on the back, so these things can tread really lightly, and they are incredibly stable on banks as well, which is something I can never get my head around, where these things will actually work. Anyway, let's go and have a look at the buck rake. So what's going on here is the really important part of the whole process, is ensiling it, clamping it, however you want to call it. One of Andrew's tractors is here, the John Deere, and that is the farmer over there on his new Holland. The farmer's hired Andrew's compactor, so it's a set of train wheels on a frame basically, and its primary purpose is to squash any air out of the crop and make sure that it's well compacted. You can see that Andrew's buck rake man was rolling there while he was waiting for loads to come in. So this can't be overstated how important this process is, because this is where the feed is made. It's made in the clamp, it's not made in the field. You can chop it and bring it in as fast as you like, but if it's not put in the clamp properly, then you will end up with a big pile of rotten muck. So getting this right and making sure that it's packed in properly and consolidated and rolled is really important. So with the wagons, you can see that the loads are, oh wait, you can't see, I'll explain it as if you don't know. With wagons, they compact the load as it's going in. The load is compressed almost double for what a forage harvester would do, so the wagon manufacturers claim, but it is definitely heavier. So Andrew's man here is taking the approach of like old school buck raking, where he drives into the load, lifts it, backs up, and then climbs the clamp and starts shaking it as he goes up and starts pushing it off, because just to push through the load right from the start would be quite hard, quite harsh on the tractor, and it would be like driving into a big solid heap of grass, because that's what you're doing basically. Okay, as Andrew's backed in here, has to lock the axle on the wagon so it doesn't try and steer itself. Hydraulic tailgate open, and then puts the bed chains into reverse gear. Well, no, actually it's not reverse gear, is it? I'm a bit stupid there, it's the same direction. Bed chains are always going in the same direction, towards the back. So anyway, you can hear that the bed chains motor changes pitch, and that's because they've got like a 2-speed system on them. So to get the load moving when the wagon is absolutely full, it starts off in a lower gear, and then as soon as it senses that it can shift to a faster speed, it does so, and then the driver just draws forward slightly, very slowly, unloads. The bulk of the load comes out in one lump, but the guys, you'll see them if you ever watch wagons being unloaded, these types of wagons, forage wagons, they always sort of keep unloading for a little while after you think surely it must be empty now, but it's just to get the last bits out off the bed so that it's fully clear, because otherwise when they go back to the field and they start loading and the bed chains move back, then they start dribbling grass out of the back, so they always want to make sure that wagon is completely empty. Okay, so there's Andrew just shutting the tailgate on his wagon. Sam's not going to back his in until the buck rate man says so, because in the yard, buck rate man is the law. So with this wagon silage, they don't just plough into it like you'd see people with precision shop grass. It's heavy. These loads are dense, so you don't just shove these about quite as easily. Just took the end off it there. He just shakes it out nice and steadily. You can see how flat and uniform he's got the ramp. It's really smooth, and that's what we're looking for. A nice even spread of the grass. So he's just now he's just going to take a bite out of it like we used to in the old days, when you drive in and lift up and then reverse out of the heap. Because this grass is so densely packed into those wagons, you can't just push a full load up the clamp. So buck rate man's here is very proficient. He's going back over what he's already done, just slightly running his wheel on it, and then finishing off the run that he didn't quite get to finish there, so all the way to the back of the clamp. And then he reverses down, just slightly running on what he's already shaken out there. You can see that he's only leaving a fraction of uncompacted grass there. Okay, I'm just examining a piece of the load that comes out of the forage wagon. You can see how dense it is. That's been forced through the knives with great force, 200 horsepower of force actually. But there's your 35mm theoretical chop length, and that's how dense the load is. Okay, just see as he hits this last bit of load, pushes it up the clamp. As he goes up, lowers his front linkage down, and he pushes that load off. This is a push-off buck rake, that's why it's called a push-off buck rake, and just levels the load as he goes. Lifts his buck rake up and then backs down across the load to roll it. See here, same again, just pushing up, pushes that load off, smooths it out, nice and uniform layers, goes past where he's finished and rolls back over it. And repeat. Most important job in silage making operation is the man doing this job, because if the crop isn't correctly ensiled, it's buck rate badly, then that's when you get lots of waste, and waste is the profit killer for any farm. Okay, this silage compactor is made literally out of a set of train wheels. They reach the end of the service life and they get sold off basically as scrap almost. They're really heavy. These are forged, not cast, and they're ideal for this job, getting the air out of the clamp. You can see the grass is sticking to the roller, so it's nice and sugary, and that's a really good sign. Okay, I did a little time lapse of the buck raking process here. The buck rake man's just rolling his work here, and that's part of the job, is to keep the clamp well rolled, keep any air out, reduce spoilage. Okay, as usual, that's enough of me waffling. Hope you find it interesting. Any comments, please leave them. Any questions, ask away. If I can answer them, I will. If I can't, I'll try my best to find out. Okay, enjoy. I hope you're enjoying the channel. Please comment, rate and subscribe. Spread the word.